Hi, welcome back. Just in case you thought I had forgotten Bookmas, well, you are wrong. Your girl loves a holiday, and here we are with a very short series of Bookmas videos coming to you just in the nick of time. So if you are bored wrapping presents, I bring you your background noise. You're welcome. Our first video, in case you couldn't tell from the title, I'm bringing to you Books of Christmas Past. So without further ado, let's get into some cozy Christmas reads from past years that warmed the little cockles of my holly jolly heart. Let's start off with some super recent reads that I know we'll have heard of. Get those out of the way so we can get into some ones that maybe are surprises and ones you haven't heard of quite yet. First, let's chat about quite possibly the first holiday chick-lit book I ever read, aside from the one in the middle of the Shopaholic series, which I'm not going to bring back out because I don't think it aged particularly well, especially if you have a shopping problem, which, not a problem if you don't want to fix it, right? Right. That was Christina Lauren's In A Holidaze. I actually got this as a gift. It was in a Once Upon a Book box, and if you haven't heard of them, I'm going to be doing one of them with you at some point, so you'll see what they're all about later. Not sponsored. They have no idea I'm alive. But Christina Lauren, her books for me are always super hit or miss, and this was a total hit. This book is about Malin Jones, and as so many of these books start, we've got a girl who is kind of hating life at the moment. Maisie is hating her job, living at home with her parents, and kind of single as all get out. The one thing that she lives for and loves is every Christmas her family and two other families go and spend the holidays together at this great cabin her family owns in Utah. Only this year, her family's like, hey, this is gonna be our last time staying at this cabin, we're sorry to say. Everyone's children are all grown up, people are moving apart, getting married. It's probably time to move on and end this amazing holiday tradition that everyone's loved for forever, but now we're ending because of reasons. The plot, that's why they're ending it. So Maisie is freaking out and she ends up making this super big romantic mistake and kissing a guy she shouldn't because, newsflash, she's kind of completely in love with his big brother, and does big brother see? Oh yes, he freaking does. And as they're leaving the cabin for the very last time, Maisie's just like, oh my god, please, 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 universe, I'm putting it out there, just fix it, make me happy. Enter time loop. Now, I normally hate time loops. Every time loop I read, I'm bored, I'm miserable, and there are like two exceptions in my life. One is that Christmas movie, The 12 Dates of Christmas. I'll insert a picture up here. I love it. I don't know why. I think because every day is so very, very different. And some of those days, if I could spend one day and like spend all the money I want and never have to pay for it, or eat all the stuff that I want and never get fat the next day for it, yeah, you know what? I'd be a very, very happy camper and I would totally do those things. This book is kind of like that. She has so many messy relationships she needs to clear up. Every day is totally different, and the things that repeat you don't really mind, like they watch the same movie. Like, how does that affect you? It doesn't. You don't have to deal with it. I loved this book. You get the sense of soulmates. It's funny. Christina Lauren, I find that they do tension and romance and chemistry really well when they get it right. They get it right in this book. I found the family relationships were done surprisingly well, and I really found them believable, and I loved the connections that she forged and rebuilt. Honestly, I loved this book, and it was really funny. It was genuinely funny. And you've got some really, really great holiday scenes. This family goes all out. They have holiday activities. You've got snow fights, snowman building, all the stuff you want to see set in this amazing cabin setting. This is a great holiday read, and it is the first book with a time loop that did not make me want to tear my hair out. So, major points to In A Holidaze. Also, the cabin reminded me of Holiday in Handcuffs. Yes, I'm going to be referencing lots and lots of really terrible holiday movies. Just saying. Next up, we've got The Holiday Swap by Maggie Knox, and I'm going to tell you exactly what this book is. You ready? Okay, take The Parent Trap, Grow the Girls Up, then combine it with Gilmore Girls, small town vibes, love it, and add in The Great British Bake Off. That is what the vibes of this book are, down to a T. So we have twins Charlie and Cass. They're both bakers, okay, but they've kind of gone in different directions with this. Charlie went off to Tinseltown and became kind of like a celebrity baker, and right now she's in a competition a la British Bake Off. And Cass stayed back home to run their family bakery, and it's kind of super not fun right now, and she's also going through the breakup through hell because her ex is like, well, do we ever love exes? Not so much. Trouble comes knocking when poor Charlie gets knocked on the head in the middle of her baking competition, and all of a sudden she can't taste a gosh darn thing. Obviously, this is a problem when you're in a baking competition and need to be tasting your work as you go along. And so she calls up her sister and is like, Cass, hi, you know what we used to do as kids, that whole like swapping places thing? We need to do that again now. Meanwhile, Cass is like, well, this way I could avoid my ex. And I don't think Charlie gets how hard it is to run a small hometown struggling bakery in the middle of the busiest season ever for bakeries. Hi, holiday season. Sure, I'll go and live in her fancy LA apartment, and she can come live here and deal with like getting up at 5 a.m. and baking thousands of cookies a day. Absolutely. Of course, they swap places. I would also like to add there's a very handsome, rugged firefighter living in the small town, and a very handsome doctor who's very concerned about that head injury, which of course Cass suddenly does not have problems. This was so much fun. This is just a great one. This is an absolute escapist delight, I have to say. Obviously, you've got the funny hijinks. You've got those moments where like, oh my god, you guys are idiots. This is going to end in absolute disaster. You can't help but smile as you read it. This is one of those books that has a great little countdown to Christmas at the beginning of every chapter, which I loved. And while yes, I obviously tended to identify with one twin more than the other, and I liked one story more than the other, both of their stories still totally worked for me, and I did think that both of them were equally as strong. Was the ending predictable? Of course it was. All of these endings are going to be predictable. But I actually do remember curling up in bed on Christmas Eve and like snuggling up and reading this once all the presents were wrapped and feeling so cozy and wonderful enjoying this. And I think that says so much if you can remember the moment you're sitting there reading this and feeling the glow from a book. So if you're just looking for a feel-good, warm glow, this is a great choice. And if you love baking, all the baking. Now, if you are like me, there are times when you want traditionally published books, and there are times when you want an indie romance. And if you were looking for a Christmas indie romance, I highly recommend B.K. Borison's Lovelite Farms if you didn't read it last year like everybody else. You get a little more breathing room, shall we say. You know, the author is saying everything they want to say, and you just get this sense of, I don't want to say authenticity, but it does feel less edited. And some people probably hate that, but I actually enjoy it. I just feel like you get a better sense of the author's voice in a lot of places. And for the record, there are more books after this, but this is still my favorite because if you're going to have a series of books set on a Christmas tree farm, the one set at Christmas is probably going to be your favorite. Anyway, this book is about Stella, and she's trying to save this Christmas tree farm. So she enters a contest where she can win a ton of publicity and $100,000 from this influencer named Evelyn St. James. Now, she, on the form, says that she runs it with her boyfriend. She doesn't have a boyfriend, and she needs to solve that problem before Evelyn comes out to check out their place to see what it's like and see if they're gonna win. They've become a finalist. Yay! So enter Luca, her BFF. And she's like, look, I just need you to fake it with me. And he's like, absolutely, I will be your fake boyfriend. Totally. I will help out on the farm. We totally got this. And so starting around the beginning of November, they get this place into shape. Along the way, they've got pasture of dead trees, invading raccoons, shipments that have mysteriously gone missing. Stella's kind of an idiot not to see that they're being sabotaged, but that's okay. That's okay. You know it, I know it, we all know it very quickly on, unless you have the IQ of one of those raccoons. It is not a spoiler. Lovelite Farms is delightful. The town is amazing. I love the secondary characters. You get to know more of them. You kind of know who's going to be getting in their own stories as the time goes on. Evelyn St. James is a great character. I absolutely love her. I kind of related more to her than Stella in a lot of places, actually. It's a great book. It's funny. It's really funny, actually. Those raccoons are freaking hysterical. The only thing that kind of killed me was that these two decide that they're gonna fake date, right? Evelyn St. James doesn't show up until page, 274? These guys have already hit the sheets by page 200, which means they're fake dating like the whole book before she even gets there. What are they practicing? I promise you she doesn't have cameras set up in your bedrooms, guys. Little implausible, but you know what? We let that go for romance in general, and we especially let that go at Christmas time. So I'm going to say we love the covers, we love Christmas, we love Christmas Tree Farms. We just really like fake dating. It's a good read. And pretty steamy too. Now, you wanna talk steamy. This tiny little novella shocked the ever-living crap out of me when I picked it up, and if you were looking for a short read and feel like you've run out of time and have suddenly realized, oh my god, I didn't read any Christmas books, pick this up. It's under 200 pages, and you're gonna get a lot of mileage out of the Mistletoe Motive by Chloe Leese, let me tell you. Surprisingly long description, so I'm gonna trim it down for you. We have Jonathan Frost and Gabrielle Di Natale. I kid you not, friends. They're both working at a bookstore, and the bookstore's not doing particularly well, so they feel like, oh my gosh, we need to get sales up, and we're also probably competing to keep the same job. So we've got workplace competition, professional adversary to lovers kind of thing. These two can be kind of vicious together, but they also immediately have that total chemistry thing going on, so it's pretty clear where this book is going, especially given how few number of pages they have to get where they're going. Also, some neurodiversity rep, which kind of cool. We don't see that a ton. The deal they strike is that whoever makes the fewest sales will be the one to step down. And it should seem like everything is fair in love and war, but when Gabby's ex starts sniffing around, Jonathan's behavior suddenly takes, well, a little bit of a turn, shall we say. Look, I'm going to tell you right now, if you love You've Got Mail, because we do have some like really cute letter writing and stuff like that going on. We do. And in any You've Got Mail, I'm sold. Okay? Anything with that, it's gonna be a yes for me. And The Hating Game, you're gonna love this book. And that is the true barometer. Okay? If you love The Hating Game, you will love this book. If you hate The Hating Game, you will not like this book. Point blank, period. It is shockingly steamy. I'm gonna tell you that right now. Like, for a short little book, I won't say shockingly, but surprising amount of steam. Not smut. Does not cross the line to smut, but I'm telling you right now, pretty good dirty talk. Also, I love the cover. Who doesn't love a bookshop at Christmas? So, if you want tension and teasing, if you want every word to be right and to count, and if you do not want some massive, long, convoluted misunderstanding in the third act to draw a book out for another 50 pages, here's your choice. Another book that I don't hear about a whole ton is 7 Days of Us by Francesca Hornak, and I think that's because A, it's from like, what, 2017, and B, it's got some pandemic stuff, but 2017, so it can't be the capital P pandemic. Let me explain. This is about the Birch family, and they live in a hall. That's right, Wayfield Hall. So we got rich people problems, and I enjoy a good rich people problem book. I'm not gonna lie to you. Now, when their one daughter, who's been off saving the world, Olivia, she's like a Doctors with Borders kind of thing, comes back and is then immediately alerted that she may have been exposed to a pandemic when she was out saving the world, the whole family is stuck at Wayfield Hall and cannot leave for 7 days. I know. So sorry for them. Weirdly prophetic though. And I did indeed read this in the Christmas of 2020 or 2021. But hear me out. You know what? I kind of totally enjoyed it. So we've got Emma, Andrew, Olivia, and several other point of views that are constantly getting tossed in. And this family drama is complicated. We have got mega family secrets. And you know the type of rich family secrets that we all love to see. Affairs, secret children, hidden wills and money and all that stuff. I'm not going to tell you which of those appear, but like, know you're gonna get to tick several boxes. We've got Phoebe, the youngest daughter, who's like this wild child, and yet she is planning this absolutely lavish upcoming wedding. And Olivia, who obviously is like this super grounded, I am trying to save the world type. Andrew is meanwhile trying to destroy one restaurant at a time, writing these horrible, scathing reviews. And meanwhile, in his head, he's like, I can't believe I used to be a war correspondent. My life used to mean something. I mean, it is just wild. And I had the best time reading this book. And there's a guest who comes at the end who just shocks the heck out of everybody. So you know what? I gotta say, you don't hear about it a ton. You get the countdown to the end. of the quarantine. It's only 7 days. Everyone gets so squirrely. It did class so well. It was smart. It was funny. It was witty. And it also reminded me a little bit of Love Actually, because yes, you expect a family to have lots of intertwining plots, but this took it so much further, and there were so many unexpected outside relationships that wound up weaving in and connecting them in unexpected ways. It ended up being kind of heartwarming at the end. It really, really did, despite the whole class commentary, which I did find enjoyable. I won't lie to you. Now, Once Upon a December was doing so well. Amy E. Reichert, this is a really great premise, okay? Now, I'm gonna ignore our main girl's name. For starters, Astra Noel Snow. We're just gonna pretend it's not that. She is absolutely obsessed with Christmas. It is her way of life. I feel that way about Halloween and fall, so sure, why not? But she is obsessed with the Milwaukee Christmas Fair Market. She goes every year. Her family bakery is up there, so of course it's the busiest time of year. She's all about it, and now she's especially trying to throw herself into it because she has just experienced a really miserable divorce. Enter Jack Clausen, who is a jewel marked. Now, jewel marked kind of basically means like fae elf thing. So he only gets to enter like planet Earth as we know it for 1 month a year. That would be December. And the rest of the year he lives like in magic Christmas world, basically. Of course, the problem now is, as you might have guessed it, Astra and Jack Clausen wind up hatching some feels when they meet at this magical Milwaukee market. And they have to decide if this relationship, and I quote from the back of the book, can weather all seasons. Right. I loved this book. It was sweet, and it basically was like eating a marshmallow, inhaling sugar. I was basically on a sugar high for all of this book, and I loved the idea of the jewel marked. I love the idea of people who are constantly living in Christmas world. This reminded me of the movie Snow Globe, which I love, okay? Love, 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 popping it up here. I thought it was wonderful and charming, and to have to make this heartbreaking decision, ignoring the fact that they fell in love like over the course of a month, although the book very quickly goes into they met once like 9 years ago and he remembers her and she doesn't because you can't remember them, blah, 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 blah. It was great, and I was so into it, and I was like, this is heartbreaking and magical and wonderful, and oh my gosh, she's getting to see this magical Christmas fairy tale world, and what's gonna happen, and this heartbreaking choice. And if you've ever seen the movie Snow, it kind of feels like that too, where the girl falls in love with Santa Claus and she has to decide, like, is she gonna live at the North Pole? Is she gonna live like a regular life? Like, what is she gonna do? And then we get to the end, and the book gives me a trope that I hate. And then the book, like, it does something that I don't think it should be allowed to do, because it takes away all of the high stakes. The one thing you don't want to do, the one place you don't want to mess up is the ending. So this book very quickly went from something that I was lapping up, and I could see it coming. I could see it starting to go downhill, and then tripped over the finish line and went down to a 3-star fest. So if you don't mind super saccharine endings, if you don't mind a happily ever after ending at all costs, no matter what, go for it. But I was really bummed by this one. I'm not gonna lie. It's good up until the end. Maybe just don't finish it. Now, Everyone and Their Mother read Kiss Her Once for Me by Alison Cochrane last year. And as much as I wanted to love this one, and I did for the most part, there were a few things I didn't. But let me explain what this one is about. Okay, so we have Ellie, who is all about animation, and her dream job is to work in it, and so far she kind of is. And the book opens, we see her on Christmas Eve, it's snowing, it's magical, she meets this girl named Jack, and her and Jack have this whirlwind amazing romance, and it's like the most magical thing in the world. Jack is like this manic pixie dream Christmas elf. I don't know how else to describe her. And it's just this amazing walking in a winter wonderland snowy dream. And then after their night together, there's this horrible misunderstanding, and a whole year goes by, and we see Ellie having a miserable time, and she like lost her great job. She's now working in a coffee shop. She's about to like be evicted. Things are a disaster. So she agrees to be a fake fiance for this pretty nice guy named Andrew, because if she like is his fake fiance, I think she actually has to marry him. He's like, I'll give you $100,000. I'll split my inheritance with you. The deal is I have to get married, and you just have to come home with me for Christmas. Convince everyone. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. It'll be totally fine. And she's like, okay, let's go. And they go, and Andrew is Jack's brother. So now Jack is like, dude, you're marrying my brother? Okay. We still have crazy amazing chemistry. I'm not sure I'm buying the two of you together. Where have you been for the last year? And of course, it was a misunderstanding with Jack's ex that caused all the problems, and they're stuck in a cabin together for like an entire week, and hijinks ensue. Parts of this I loved. The things that I loved. The writing, the family stuff, the activities, the chemistry between Jack and Ellie. Every time they were together, I was like, yes, you two are soulmates, are perfect together. Things I didn't like. The plot, it was so contrived. Like, their snowy, wonderful night was so perfect. To then have to go and mess it up and then find a way to bring them back together. Couldn't we just have their romance? I just wanted their romance. Let them have their wild, happy, wonderful romance. And I did not believe for 1 minute that Ellie was going to go from having this great job doing what she loved to suddenly struggling to the point where she was about to be evicted. The actual plot stuff, when you thought about it, was what didn't work for me. But if you ignored logic, it was great. So I don't know what to do with this one either. But do we need logic at Christmas time? Maybe not. Because at the heart of it, what did I love so much? Jack and Ellie. And the author kept me coming back for more because we continued to get little flashbacks and snippets from their delightful, wonderful, magical night together that we got from the very beginning of the book. So, no, I loved it. I did. It was not 5 stars. It had to be 4 stars because I kept coming out of the book from time to time being frustrated with the actual plot. But their chemistry carried me through. If you are more in the mood to be depressed or know that you need a book that you can pick up now and will not be finishing for, say, an entire month, might I recommend, counterintuitively, We Met in December by Rosie Curtis. Now, yes, these two meet at Christmas, and yes, this book ends at Christmas, but they are not the same Christmases. In fact, I think there are 3 Christmases apart if you count the epilogue. So, here we go. First of all, it takes place in London, which is always going to get extra points for me because Christmas in London is just extra magical. Bonus star right there. But we have 29-year-old Jess. You can't be single at 30, I guess. Okay, good to know. She is moving into this room in this amazing house share in this super fancy house in Notting Hill. And I don't know England particularly well, but even I know, like, Notting Hill, gotta have some money. Apparently one of her friends is kind of rich and is giving her this like room at a great deal or something. It's a gorgeous house. We're all very excited for Jess. So she's moving into this sort of grand crumbling house with 4 basic strangers. And the one guy who's sharing her floor is named Alex. And they kind of hit it off right away. So her and Alex have this great connection. And while they don't kiss, they don't quite go there. It's like kind of clear that like, oh, something's probably gonna happen. But then everyone's like going home for like the Christmas holiday. And Jess is going home for 2 weeks. And like she's at home fantasizing about him. And it's like, God, we share a wall. I could just like knock that freaking wall down and live happily ever after. And then she comes back and finds out he is now dating Emma, who lives on the floor above them. Oh, that's not awkward because they share a wall. If those two were like doing anything in like Alex's room, yeah, she's gonna hear that. I really hope his headboard is not up against that wall. Ouch. So now she's got an entire year that she has to live there. And she is stuck dealing with the fact that she has to bump into him all the time. They literally share a bathroom. You picture the scenes, right? Him in a towel, her in a towel, sharing, like, that happens plenty. So Emma was an English major. She's trying to get into publishing and stuff. And Alex is training to be a nurse. And this is dual point of view, which is kind of great because you really get to know the characters super well. So if If you want to be in pain for a tiny little bit for an entire book, this is the one for you. It's very bittersweet. This one goes a little bit deeper than most of these other holiday reads. This one is about growing up, finding yourself, figuring out what makes you happy, figuring out how to deal with changing family, and how to deal with their expectations versus your expectations, their expectations versus what makes you happy in life, and of course, navigating life and love as you get older. You're getting dual POV. Because it's first person, it almost feels like you're reading journal entries at some points because they do so much self-reflection, but they're not journal entries at all. Rosie Curtis really takes her time and digs in pretty deep to these characters. You're always seeing the characters being torn and conflicted and emotionally driven, and at the same time, it never really feels melodramatic. You're seeing lots of happy points as well as low points. And despite the fact that this takes place over a full year, it never feels like the story drags on or like you are missing major segments in their lives. In a sense, this book feels like there's always sunshine breaking through the clouds. And you know these two are meant for each other. It's just a matter of time or a number of Decembers. If you want a holiday read that isn't quite a holiday read, a little less holly and jolly, a little more year in the life, this read's kind of perfect for you because honestly, the holidays just serve more as bookends. If you're looking for something really different in terms of the passage of time, try time travel. Might I recommend How the Duke Stole Christmas? This has 4 short stories, I've marked them off, by Tessa Dare, Sarah McLean, Sophie Jordan, and Joanna Shoup. I do occasionally love a good Regency romance, bodice stripper-esque book, and these little stories did not disappoint. The one by Tessa Dare is called Meet Me in Mayfair. This is your classic girl needs a Christmas miracle, needs a wealthy husband, must get him at the ball. And indeed, it is due to the Duke of Thorndale, who is threatening to evict her family. She has one night to do it. And surprise, surprise, she finds herself dancing with the heartless Duke of Thorndale, who turns out to be unnervingly handsome and surprisingly charming. We then have the Duke of Christmas Present. We have, again, a rich and ruthless Duke who does not care for the holidays. And yet, when Lady Jacqueline Mosby returns to town after a very long absence, our dear Duke falls under the spell of Christmas. And of course, this lady, whom he apparently never stopped loving. Aww. Heiress Alone. I particularly enjoyed this one. This was about a girl who finds herself stranded in the Highlands during a Christmas snowstorm, and she has to fend off brigands terrorizing the countryside, and her only hope falls on a neighbor. That's right, a surly hermit duke who unravels her with a kiss. Those two had some pretty good chemistry. And then we had Christmas in Central Park by Joanna Shoup, and this was about Mrs. Rose Walker, who writes a popular advice and recipe column. Unfortunately, the poor girl can't even boil water. So when her boss insists that they have a Christmas party, she needs to find a husband, an empty mansion, and a cook because she is not married, she doesn't have a huge mansion, and she really can't do anything for herself. And her plan, unfortunately, is very quickly failing. But you know what? It's funny because she seems to really be liking this Duke despite all the trouble he's causing her. And that mistletoe is starting to look pretty inviting when he's standing underneath it. This collection was charming, each story was short, each story was adorable, and sometimes I really just want to step back in time and enjoy those really ridiculous old days when a kiss meant everything, a hand touch, we all know Mr. Darcy, okay, we all know Mr. Darcy, meant everything, a shy glance meant everything, and the first time with your new love really was your first time. What can I say? Sometimes those stories, they just do it for me. If you're gonna set them in the Highlands, it's always gonna do it for me. They were good. They were just good. And you've got big hitters here. Tessa Dare, Sarah McLean. Sophie Jordan, I'd never heard of, but that was definitely my favorite one. And Joanna Shoup's one, I recall, was just really funny. So give that a shot. Up next is Knit the Season. This is the third in the Friday Night Knitting Club series. So I'm kind of cheating here, but hear me out. This is the most cozy, wholesome, sweet little series in the whole wide world. This is about a shop called Walker and Daughter Knitters. And this is the sweetest little yarn shop in all of New York City. We've got Georgia Walker and her daughter Dakota, and they live in New York City right above their shop, and they sell yarn, and it's charming. There is a knitting club, as you might have guessed. The assistant Perry is basically their best friend there. She makes these amazing purses that she designs and felts and sells. And one day an old semi-friend, semi-enemy comes in and is like, can you design me these amazing gowns, purely hand knit? And Dakota's dad comes in at one point and re-enters their lives. Everything about this book is cozy, charming, wonderful. It is about female friendship, females boosting one another. This wonderful knitting club where all these people come in and become friends from all these different walks of life. They all have different stories that you learn. It is just the most delightful, wonderful thing you can imagine. They spend some time over in Scotland to visit Dakota's gran and George's mom, and everything about this book, I can't sell it well enough. I don't want to say much more because each of their stories unravels well like a ball of yarn, slowly and deliciously. And as they learn to trust one another and share their stories, that is part of the magic of this book. And when they weave together, oh, too many puns, I'm so sorry. It's just magic. It's absolute magic. You will cry. You will laugh. I love this book so much. The story continues within it too, as George's daughter Dakota stays in New York and goes off to college. The shop, of course, continues on, and same with Knit the Season, as this shows Dakota still in college, trying to decide if she wants to be more of a fashion designer or if she wants to stay and carry on the legacy of the shop. These books are wonderful. I love them so much, and I could not resist including them. You probably don't have time to read them all this holiday season, but no one talks about them anymore because they're pretty old. The first book was published in 2007. This one was published in 2009. They look pretty beat up because back when I was first married, I couldn't exactly be affording to buy all of these brand new books when they were first coming out, and certainly not special editions. So I used to thrift all my books, and I thrifted these years after they even came out, and I used to reread these every single winter. So maybe consider picking these up if you want the coziest of cozy reads. I don't knit, but I do crochet. And I'm getting the urge to pull out some yarn right now, to be very honest with you. Lastly, if you're feeling a little more bah humbug and a little less ho-ho-ho, might I suggest Catherine Stedman's The Family Game. I read this last year when I was stuck at home with an antibiotic-resistant infection of some kind and could not see any family, and let me tell you, it kind of hit the spot, made me feel a little less bad about missing out on, well, everything. So this book is about Harriet Reed, who goes home with her fiance and agrees to be a part of their little holiday game, which, you know what, after you hear the rules, I suggest you say no, but that's just me. Here they are. Listen carefully, do your research, trust no one, and run for your life. Hard pass for me. But Harriet Reed is a novelist, on the brink of literary stardom apparently, and newly engaged to the heir of a very powerful family. Now, Edward has tried to break ties with his family, despite them being very powerful, because they're also very insane. But news of his new engagement has kind of brought them back crawling out of the woodwork, and Harriet, well, she kind of likes the idea of their lavish world. So when Edward's father gives her a tape, well, I would have listened to it too. I'm going to be really honest with you. I just have zero self-control, and I'm the most curious person on the planet. She at first thinks that it's a novel, and he wants help with a novel. No, it's a confession to a crime, and I'm not ruining everything. It's on the flap of the book, and now she has to decide, okay, is this part of the game? Is this something darker? Is this some sort of test of her trust? This book starts when she meets the family on Thanksgiving, which is kind of when she receives the tape, if I remember correctly, and carries through to Christmas. And they do have these wild family games that they play when they're all together, including one on Krampusnacht, which, yes, is exactly what it sounds like. And these games, you run all around the mansion, things go wild and crazy. The stakes are, well, let's just say they're as high as humanly possible. Shall we? While I didn't think this was as amazing as Something in the Water, that still remains my favorite Catherine Steadman, and weirdly enough is her debut, I thought this was pretty darn good. It does have some surprisingly festive stuff going on. You do get some of the holiday feels and also some of the holiday creeps. I did think that drawing out her listening to this tape over the course of like a gosh darn month was just so completely implausible. How they drag it out so she is forced to keep stopping listening to this tape continually and keep adding obstacles to her listening to like a 90-minute tape. Maybe it's not 90 minutes, however long it is. It just drove me crazy. And it was just so implausible that at times I just wanted to like shake the book. Like, I did shake the book. I wanted to throw the book. So that was my complaint, but you know what? It was a fast read. It was a fun read. And if you are feeling a little Grinchy this Christmas, this is gonna hit just right for you. Now, if you noticed that I changed my headband for every single book that I described, please leave a comment. Please leave a bow emoji, because I have a little bet going with my husband, and he genuinely believes that no one would have noticed. And if you don't believe he would believe this, here is how our bet started. In 2020, I was having a lousy summer, as was just about everyone else in the whole entire world, and I decided exactly 10 days before August 1st that, you know what would make my summer just a little less miserable? Okay, a lot less miserable for me. Decorating early for fall. I'm a fall girly. So my thing was, my husband's probably not gonna love this, but if I can sneak out one holiday decoration every day for the next 10 days leading up to August 1st, then I get to decorate on August 1st instead of September 1st, which is what I usually do. So, first picture. I cleaned off all of the summer stuff off of our mantle and put up these 3 pumpkins. Then I added a little debris around them to make them a little less noticeable because I was getting really nervous and I didn't want to fail on the first date. Nothing. Did notice. Next, I was feeling quite brazen. This is on top of our entertainment center above the TV, which we watch together every single night. One show after our daughter goes to bed. I was pretty sure I was getting caught this night. Next picture. This also went on top of the mantle, along with a white pumpkin candle, which is still my favorite scent. I hope they have that every year. I hope they never discontinue it at Bath and Body Works. Next, I felt like, let's switch to another room. So we went into the kitchen, and you can see this is like one of those baker rack things, but a really big wooden one in our kitchen. And this gets used a lot. Those are bubbles my daughter was using. It's a book that we got that we were reading our daughter a lot at the time. That pumpkin, by the way, lights up rainbow style. I did it for my daughter multiple times that day. Husband was working from home. Nothing. Continuing in the kitchen is this little baby. It says, of course, the cobwebs are part of the decor. And at this point, you might think, hey, you kind of hid that one note. You see those drawers right below that? That's where sunglasses and keys go. No. Okay. This is right next to our sliding doors that go onto the deck. I figured, you know what, this is right in his eye line when he sits at the kitchen table for dinner. No way. Next day! Now, you might think, wow, that's kind of small. Is he really going to notice that? This is the mirror above the bench where he puts his shoes. This is the mirror he uses to apply sunblock. At this point, I was starting to be concerned. Let's try outside. We let our dogs out 50 times a day. Our daughter plays in the garden. You drive up and down the driveway. So I put up a nice welcome sign with the pumpkins, and for fox's sake, is it fall yet sign, which makes me laugh. I'm 5 years old, shush. At this point, the situation was dire. We've got 2 days left, okay? This is our bathroom door. This is the powder room bathroom door. There's only one bathroom on our first floor. You have to walk past this wreath to go into the powder room. You have to walk past it to come out. There is nothing that goes in this door for all of spring or summer. At all. I gave up on day 10. I put up this amazing witch that my not quite 2-year-old daughter noticed. You walk past the dining room where this is the main. Welcome to 12:03 a.m. August 1st. So, please let me know if you notice the headband changes. I'd be most curious to know if I win or lose the bet. I'm imagining I'm going to win. Let me know if you would have noticed the decorations. I imagine most of you would have, and don't worry, I have my husband's permission to put all this up there. He thought it'd be really funny and fun to do this as a joke for the Christmas past video and a little glimpse into some of the funny stuff we do to each other in our lives. But that's it for me. Thank you so much for joining me for this slightly fun, slightly wacky video. I hope you enjoyed some little Christmas hijinks with me and enjoyed hearing about some of the books that I've enjoyed in the past. Happy Bookmas. Please like and subscribe, and I will let you guys get back to your book, and I'll be getting back to the last of my holiday reads. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!